A lone ship cuts through the frozen, jagged ice of the Antarctic wasteland. An unnamed researcher cruises on a snowmobile, eyes fixed on the horizon ahead. He's chatting away, wondering why the German group has such a grudge against spam. Wait, did a penguin actually follow him all the way from Penguin Village? He tries to joke with the bird, but it's acting strangely aggressive today. Whoa, watch out, that bird is jumping right in front of the moving snowmobile. He finally reaches the Antarctic Sejong research station, still bickering with his feathered stowaway. Back at the base, the team complains about penguins constantly ruining their fishing trips. The snowmobile battery is dead, but the researcher finally makes it inside the facility. He pulls off his goggles, exhausted, blaming the brutal blizzard for his late arrival. Sun Tihun enters, grinning, expecting the usual banter from his crew. Silence, why is everyone ignoring him? The air feels heavy and wrong. He calls out, confused. He radioed in, so why is the base so empty? Wait, is this a prank? He shouts into the darkness, but only silence answers. The generator is failing again. Is the team trying to get him killed? It's freezing. He wonders if the heating system finally gave out in the blizzard. He clicks his flashlight on, cutting through the gloom. What is he looking at? The table is a mess. Everyone was just here, but now it's completely abandoned. A bottle lies tipped over on the table. This isn't a joke anymore, is it? He turns to Hyunsu, desperate for an answer, but Hyunsu is just sitting there motionless. Sun Tihun snaps, his patience gone. Where is everyone hiding? He sweeps his flashlight across the room, but the silence is deafening. He walks toward the glass, his own reflection staring back with pure dread. He presses his hand against the cold surface. Is he truly alone here? He reaches out, his heart hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. Wait, what is that red smear? His blood runs cold at the sight. He exhales, shaking. It's just kimchi. Thank God it's only food. The cafeteria is a wreck. Chairs overturned, supplies scattered everywhere. It's chaos. Sliced ingredients lie abandoned on the table, where they interrupted mid-meal. He's trembling now. He needs the lights back on right this second. Sun Tihun scans the dark, confused. Did they evacuate? No, that doesn't make sense. The German base is fine. It's not the weather. Something else is wrong here. He keeps moving, his flashlight beam cutting through the oppressive, heavy silence of the hallway. He reaches the control room door. It's locked tight. He reaches for the handle. He's sweating, trying to keep it together. He's no rookie, he tells himself, trembling hard. His gloved hand shakes violently against the door. He's terrified, but he refuses to admit it. Suddenly, a flash of glowing red eyes and sharp claws lunges from the shadows. He's thrown back, hitting the ground hard. His flashlight drops, clattering into the darkness. The unknown female entity stands over a body, her eyes burning with a lethal hunger. Sun Tihun stares in pure horror. This isn't a prank, this is a nightmare come true. The unknown female entity lunges, her glowing red eyes locked onto Sun Tihun's throat. A primal scream tears from his lungs as he desperately tries to fend her off. He kicks out with everything he has, sending the creature flying back into the shadows. She doesn't stop, pinning him down and sinking her teeth into his parka. He's frantic, shouting in disbelief as she tears at him with those sharp, inhuman claws. With a desperate shove, he manages to break free, scrambling backward across the cold floor. His heart is pounding out of his chest. He can't wrap his head around this nightmare. He crawls toward the light, his flashlight beam revealing a gruesome, blood-soaked scene ahead. He freezes, his voice trembling as he whispers the name of the fallen captain. Surrounded by death and madness, he stares into the dark, completely broken by the reality. Sun Tihun stares in disbelief as the creature looms over him, teeth bared. He lunges, desperate to survive, but his movements are sluggish against her unnatural speed. They scramble across the floor, a blur of motion in the suffocating, dark hallway. Flashback, he remembers the relief of finally reaching the base after that brutal, endless blizzard. The cafeteria was warm, filled with the clinking of beer glasses and holiday cheer. He recalls meeting a new face, someone from the meteorological agency, a girl named Mincio. She was friendly, humble, and clearly younger than him, laughing as they chatted away. They shook hands, Sun Tihun feeling like he'd finally found a solid, reliable comrade. She introduced herself with a bright, genuine smile. Her name was Lee Hanyong. But back in the present, that same face is a blood-soaked, screaming nightmare of madness. Sun Tihun's mind snaps. He tries to laugh off the horror as a sick joke. But the reality hits. Lee Hanyong is standing right there, impaled by a wooden stake. He stares at the gore, still desperately clinging to the hope it's just a costume. The creature ignores his pleas, her glowing red eyes locked on him with pure predatory intent. He tries to de-escalate, backing away slowly while clutching his flashlight like a pathetic shield. Too late, she lunges with blinding speed, claws tearing through the air toward his face. He barely reacts in time, throwing a desperate kick to keep the monster at bay. He screams her name, begging her to stop, but there is no humanity left in her. He swings his gear, a frantic strike to survive the onslaught in the dark hallway. He pins her down, shouting at Lee Hanyong, but she's already gone, only a monster remains. Sun Tihun hyperventilates, tears streaming down his face as reality finally shatters his mind. Lee Hanyong lunges, her red eyes glowing with pure, unadulterated malice and predatory hunger. He desperately thrusts the wooden stake deeper, begging for this nightmare to just end. A sudden, sharp realization hits him he's actually hurting her. He recoils in pure shock. She leaps through the air with terrifying, inhuman agility, closing the distance in seconds. Lee Hanyong screams, a feral, distorted sound that echoes through the dark, frozen station. She launches a powerful, bone-crushing kick, sending Sun Tihun reeling back into the shadows. He stares in total disbelief, his mind struggling to process the monster before him. He whispers a final, broken apology, his eyes reflecting the creature's terrifying, glowing gaze. The ice axe strikes home, a desperate, final attempt to survive this frozen hell. Sun Tihun lunges, driving the ice axe deep into Lee Hanyong's chest. She shrieks, the wooden stake still piercing her as they collide in the dark. He's hyperventilating, his eyes wide with terror as he realizes the sheer scale of this nightmare. She's relentless, her body defying gravity as she launches a brutal, high-speed counterattack. The impact is sickening. She's not just human anymore, she's something far more dangerous. Black mist erupts from her wounds, swirling around her like a dark, suffocating shadow. She's twitching, her body contorting in ways that make his skin crawl with dread. The black substance pools on the floor, pulsating with an unnatural, sickly energy. He's losing it, his mind fracturing as he mutters apologies to a hollow, monster shell. The reality is too much. He's trapped in a nightmare he can't wake up from. Wait, what is that? Black blood oozing from the wound. This isn't human. Lee Hanyong's body is literally melting away into a pool of dark, oily sludge. Sun Tihun reaches out, his hand trembling. Is the corpse actually disappearing right now? It's evaporating into thin air. The physical form is just dissolving into black mist. The floor is covered in a bubbling, dark residue. What kind of nightmare is this? Sun Tihun stares, his face pale. Damn it, what the hell is going on here? Watching his former comrade vanish into nothingness, he feels his sanity finally start to slip. He realizes with a jolt that everyone else who went missing probably ended up like this. He kneels by the puddle, terrified. Could this whole thing actually be some kind of infection? The wooden stake remains, but the host is gone. Only the dark, oily stain stays behind. The struggle is brutal, but Sun Tihun finally drives the stake into her chest. He's locked in a desperate, physical grapple with the possessed Lee Hanyong. Her red eyes burn with malice as the wooden stake pierces her heart. Wait, the impact, he's thrown back, his mind reeling from the sheer, terrifying force. He scrambles up, gasping for air as the oily black residue pools beneath her. He stares at his own reflection, his face pale and eyes wide with pure, unadulterated shock. He's spiraling, muttering to himself, trying to rationalize the impossible horror he just witnessed. He clings to logic. It's not airborne, he just needs to avoid direct contact. A breakthrough, he remembers the CCTV system. He can see what's happening in the base. He forces himself to move, sprinting toward the generator room to fuel his survival. Sun Tihun is spiraling, his mind fracturing as he mutters about restoring the station's power. He's terrified, praying that he isn't the only survivor left in this frozen, silent hell. He stalks through the wreckage of the cafeteria, his makeshift spear gripped tight in his hands. He's hyperventilating, desperately searching for the emergency water supply he knows is kept in the fridge. A memory flashes, Hyunsu, the station chef, smiling and pointing him toward the emergency supplies. He reaches for the refrigerator door, his heart hammering against his ribs in the dark. He yanks it open, but instead of supplies, he finds a horrific, blood-soaked nightmare waiting. It's Hyunsu, the chef he trusted, now a mangled, unrecognizable mess. The horror is just too much. He collapses, sobbing uncontrollably, as the crushing reality of his isolation finally sets in. He's an engineer, and he knows the only way to survive is to reach the generator room. The blizzard is getting worse, but Sun Tihun knows he must reach the generator now. He stumbles through the freezing hallway, his body aching from the relentless, biting cold. Wait, a black handprint on the glass, his blood turns to ice. What happened here? He collapses into the snow, the weight of the situation crushing his remaining hope. His eyes widen in pure terror. He's staring at the wreckage of his own sanity. He slams his fist against the door, desperate to find a way into the generator. He finally reaches the room, but a swarm of infected entities blocks his only path. Glowing red eyes stare back from the darkness. How many of them are left inside? He's being ripped apart, his vision fading as the infected swarm closes in on him. It's over. He's either going to be torn to shreds or simply freeze to death. Sun Tihun's eyes widen in sheer panic. The emergency generator is his final hope. He spots the location on the map. The emergency generator sits right by the machinery room. Adrenaline surges through him as he fires up the snowmobile. He can survive this. Wait, look at the horizon. Smoke billows from the distant kindling station. It's total chaos. He doesn't care about the other base. He has his own nightmare to deal with now. Sun Tihun stands before the machinery room door, his pole-mounted climbing axe gripped tight. He's breathing hard, his face pale and slick with sweat. He's reaching his breaking point. He shines his light on the floor, black blood stains the ground. The infection is everywhere. He screams into the darkness, challenging the monsters to face him. He's done hiding. He stalks into the machinery room, weapon ready, wondering how his life became this hell. Sun Tihun scans the machinery room, but the silence is absolute. Where is everyone? He's spiraling, his mind replaying every regretful choice that led him to this frozen hell. He thinks back to his failed pilot dreams. If only he had stayed on shore back then. The memory of Han Mincio haunts him, her face a cruel reminder of his past. She was the start of it all, the reason his life began to unravel so quickly. Suddenly a noise, he spins around, his pole-mounted climbing axe raised in a defensive stance. A figure emerges from the ice, a dark, twisted shape shifting in the dim light. He's locked in, his eyes glowing with a strange, cold intensity as he prepares to strike. With a roar, he brings the axe down, slamming it into the frozen, infected entity. The creature begins to melt, its form dissolving into a dark, oily sludge beneath his feet. Sun Tihun finds a body frozen in the snow, eyes glowing with a haunting blue light. Wait, he's not a monster, he just succumbed to the brutal, unforgiving Antarctic cold. He surveys the area, wondering if he should risk searching the second floor for survivors. He creeps along the catwalk, his flashlight beam cutting through the heavy, oppressive darkness. Suddenly a shadow moves, he pivots, his climbing axe ready to strike at anything. He screams "Die" as he lashes out, his nerves completely frayed by the constant terror. A metallic clang rings out, he just blocked a heavy, blood-stained spanner with his weapon. The impact is jarring, sending a shockwave through his arms as he grapples with the attacker. He stares in disbelief, realizing he's fighting a living person, not a mindless, infected creature. They struggle violently in the dark, both desperate to survive this absolute chaotic nightmare. Sun Tihun screams, desperate to stop the lethal swing of the heavy spanner. They collide in the shadows, locked in a brutal life-or-death struggle for survival. Wait, the attacker stops. It's Sejong, her face pale and eyes wide with pure terror. Sun Tihun freezes, his heart hammering as he recognizes his college junior, Sejong. He demands answers, but the silence of the station is heavy and suffocating. Sejong explains she just returned from a medical visit to the distant Machu Picchu base. She's the station's only doctor, huddled by the fire, clearly traumatized by the ongoing chaos. Tihun asks when she left, trying to piece together the timeline of this nightmare. Sejong confirms she returned only 2 or 3 days ago to find this absolute hell. He stares at the blood-stained spanner. It's red blood, she's human, thank God. A frozen corpse lies in the dark. Did they freeze or were they killed first? Wait, black blood stains the floor. This isn't just the cold, something else is here. Why is a Chinese researcher here, and why are there zombies in this base? Is there really no one else left alive? The isolation is starting to feel lethal. Sun Tihun interrogates Sejong. Where is the snowmobile? You could have returned much sooner. Sejong flinches, explaining it broke down at the Machu Picchu base. Are you suspecting me? Tihun softens, his own nerves frayed. Sorry, I'm just as confused and terrified as you. They're both alive, but the tension is suffocating. They don't trust each other yet. Sejong is a doctor, a potential ally, but in this hell can anyone be trusted? Tihun makes a call. Follow me, we need the generator and let's swap weapons. Sun Tihun insists on the tactical swap. He takes the spanner, she takes the spear. He looks her in the eye, offering a rare, genuine moment of trust. Sejong nods, her expression softening as she agrees to survive this nightmare by his side. They seal the pact with a firm handshake, 2 survivors against an impossible frozen hell. Suddenly their eyes snap toward the darkness. The silence has been broken by something. They move through the shadows, weapons raised, scanning the gloom for any sign of movement. Sejong whispers a terrifying question. Did he leave the door open when he entered? Sun Tihun recoils, his face pale. He knows he locked it tight against the blizzard. They turn back to the doorway, the beam of light revealing a chilling, impossible sight. Footprints lead into the room from the outside, but who or what is walking in the snow? Sun Tihun and Sejong huddle together, urgency etched into their pale, frozen faces. He explains the tactical necessity of guarding their necks against the unseen, lethal threats. He grips the blood-stained spanner tight, ready to crush anything that dares to approach. He warns Sejong to watch her step, knowing these entities hunt by sound alone. Sejong nods, confirming the monsters definitely tracked him by sound at the generator room. They move out onto the catwalk, exposed to the howling wind and blinding blizzard. Tihun reaches the door, his eyes narrowing as he prepares to face the unknown. He spots the snowmobile outside. Wait, is it actually running? How is that possible? His eyes widen in pure, unadulterated shock. He sees something that defies all logic. A massive, monstrous shadow looms over the station, dwarfing them in the swirling snow. Sun Tihun scrambles through the doorway, frantic. How did they get out? He must close it. He shouts for Sejong to hurry, but the path is blocked by thick, frozen snow. They struggle against the elements, pushing hard. The ice is solid, making the door impossible. A sudden, sharp noise echoes. They both flinch, bracing for an attack from the dark. A figure emerges from the blizzard. It's an infected entity, its skin rotting and eyes glowing. It stumbles toward them, a twisted, corrupted shell of a human lost to the dark. They slam the door shut, fingers trembling as they fight to secure the heavy latch. They collapse against the cold metal, gasping for air, hearts pounding in the absolute silence. Taewon reaches out, gripping Sujin's hand in the dark. They are still alive for now. He whispers to himself, repeating the mantra, "It's closed, they are safe, it's finally closed." Sujin breaks the tension with a joke, but the atmosphere remains suffocatingly grim. Sun Taewon shuts it down instantly. There's no room for humor in this hell. He directs her attention to the penlight, needing to focus on their immediate survival. He reveals his plan, sealing the indoor door completely using the fishing line. With surgical precision, he weaves the line across the handle to secure the barrier. Sujin demands to know why he's gone silent, her nerves clearly reaching a breaking point. He finally speaks, addressing the terrifying reality of the zombies and the black blood. Sujin sets the ground rule, no hiding or lying about their desperate situation. Taewon explains the blood on his wrench came from a creature he killed earlier. He accepts the no-lying pact, but he needs to know what else is coming. They stand in the freezing dark, weapons ready, sharing a moment of grim, desperate camaraderie. Wait, look at the floor, the footprints just vanish into thin air. How is that possible? Taewon keeps his flashlight steady, his eyes scanning the gloom for any sign of movement. He questions the nature of the infection, wondering if black blood only appears from wounds. The silence is heavy, but they press forward, hoping the generator will bring some salvation. They move through the dark, their footsteps echoing like a countdown in the silent station. They reach the massive generator, but the sheer scale of the machine feels overwhelming. Suddenly a sharp sound. Sujin freezes, her eyes wide with terror as she hears something nearby. Taewon grips his spanner, his breath hitching as he whispers into the suffocating dark void. They pivot, weapons raised, wondering if the unseen threat has already moved to the floor above. Sun Taewon freezes, his mind reeling. Can these infected things actually climb stairs? Suddenly a blur of motion, a creature drops from the ceiling, red eyes burning. He screams as the entity slams into him, the impact echoing through the dark. Sujin shouts, lunging forward with her spear to defend him from the sudden assault. She yells for him to stab the monster, but he's pinned, struggling to even breathe. The creature's malice is palpable. He refuses to let his life end in this hell. He's desperate, his hands clawing at the entity while it pins him to the floor. He rolls away, gasping, but his heavy spanner clatters across the floor out of reach. Panic sets in, the weapon is gone, and the monster is already lunging for him again. He looks up, eyes wide with terror, as the shadow of the beast looms over him. Sujin screams, Sunbi fall back, as a lethal, sharp object whistles through the air. The entity lunges with terrifying speed, forcing Sun Taewon into a desperate mid-air scramble. They collide in the dark, a blur of motion as the creature's red eyes burn. Sujin shouts, Sunbi, her voice cracking with pure, unadulterated panic in the freezing hallway. Hit it with this, she yells, desperately tossing him a weapon to survive the onslaught. Taewon lunges, his fingers closing around the cold, bloodied spanner, his only hope for survival. He swings with everything he has, desperate to keep the relentless monster at bay. The blow lands, but the creature retreats, vanishing into the shadows with his knife embedded. Sujin refuses to run, screaming, No, how can I leave you alone in this frozen hell? He knows the truth, knives are useless and blunt force is the only way to survive. Sun Taewon analyzes the situation. These things have movement, intelligence, and terrifying, predatory senses. He needs to understand their habits, their thought process, or he's as good as dead. He charges into the fray, screaming, Hey you bastard, over here, to draw their attention. Sujin watches in horror, shouting, Sunbi, what are you doing? As he recklessly exposes himself. He yells back, Don't come out, stay there, determined to keep her away from the danger. He moves with expert precision, his engineer's mind using the machinery room to his advantage. They can definitely hear sounds, he shouts, baiting the entities into a fatal mistake. But wait, why aren't they attacking? The silence is even more unsettling than their screams. He realizes they aren't just mindless beasts, they have an instinctual awareness of death itself. Sujin begs him to stop, but Taewon knows he's already past the point of no return. Sujin's eyes widen in terror, she commands total silence to avoid the hunters. A sharp click echoes, the penlight is off, plunging them into absolute suffocating darkness. Sujin grips a scalpel, her knuckles white, bracing for the inevitable unseen approach. Sun Taewon screams into the void, baiting the monsters with pure, unadulterated rage. He brandishes the bloodied spanner, daring the shadows to come and claim his life. The creature's eyes burn with a hellish red glow, locking onto his position instantly. A thunderous impact shakes the floor, the entities are closing in, hunting by sound. Taewon realizes his mistake, the entities are descending from above faster than he anticipated. He's cornered, the monster's clawed hands reaching out to tear him apart in the dark. The beast strikes with lethal, blinding speed. He's completely exposed to their predatory hunger. The entity descends with terrifying speed, forcing Tihun into a desperate, frantic defensive stance. He's set the trap, now he just needs the monster to fall for his bait. It lunges straight into the fishing line tripwire, eyes burning with mindless, predatory hunger. "Take it," he screams, watching the entity get snagged by his perfectly placed trap. The creature is caught, thrashing violently as it tries to break free from the line. Tihun doesn't hesitate, swinging the heavy spanner with every ounce of his remaining strength. He shouts for Sejong to shine the light, needing to see his target clearly. Sejong beams the light, revealing the corrupted, black-oozing monster right in front of him. The spanner connects with a sickening crunch, shattering the entity's face in the dark. He's gasping for air, surrounded by black residue, finally realizing he's survived another lethal round. The monster dissolves into black sludge, leaving Sun Tihun gasping for air in the dark. Wait, a sudden blur of motion. Something is lunging at him from the shadows. His eyes widen in shock. Sejong, but she was supposed to be safe. She's attacking him with a scalpel, her movements frantic and eyes glowing with blue light. The realization hits him like a freight train. Sejong is infected too. He flashes back to their conversation, the memory of her sitting calmly in the dormitory. They were just talking about her past, her medical career, and her time abroad. He thought she was an elite specialist on the fast track, a potential ally. He remembers her background with Doctors Without Borders, thinking she was the perfect partner. But now he's staring at the truth. He was completely wrong about her all along. Wait, he's talking about Sujin's roommate Lee Hanyong. Everything is starting to connect. And he's so sure about it. Hanyong doesn't have a boyfriend. Why does that matter now? Suddenly, the atmosphere shifts. Tihun is under attack, caught in a brutal, dark struggle. Look at her face. The corruption is spreading. Those glowing red eyes are pure malice. It's a nightmare. The entity is lunging at him, black corruption oozing from its neck. Tihun and Sujin are both on the ground, gasping for air in the freezing dark. Sujin is frantic, screaming at him for going out alone. Is she truly worried or acting? He tries to calm her down, but the tension is thick enough to cut with steel. She's terrified for his life, shouting that he's all she has left in this hell. He tells her he's fine, but wait, what is he doing with that spanner? Something is off. Sun Tihun demands an explanation for the blood, but Sujin claims she cut her own arm. He snaps at her, calling her a quack, while aggressively grabbing her wrist to inspect it. He complains about the absurdity of treating wounds next to a corpse in this frozen hell. Sujin tries to redirect him, pointing out the emergency kit is located on the second floor. She grows frustrated, wondering if he is even listening to her amidst this chaotic, deadly silence. Tihun reflects on the gruesome reality of scavenging through corpses just to survive this nightmare. He notes the strange, gorilla-like strength and silent movements of these terrifying, infected entities. He realizes these new threats are fundamentally different from the entity that possessed Lee Hanyong. Sujin asks if he is okay, but he dismisses her concern, hiding his growing, deep-seated suspicion. They share a tense moment of forced camaraderie before moving out to reach the generator room. Sun Tihun and Sujin trek toward the massive generator, weapons held high in the dark. He reaches the control panel, his hand trembling as he prepares to restore the power. He stares at the interface, his heart sinking. Something is horribly, catastrophically wrong here. Pure rage flares in his eyes. He can't believe what he's seeing in the dark. The battery compartment is completely empty. The entities are sabotaging the station's life support systems. They huddle by a small fire, the shadows stretching long and menacing against the walls. Tihun winces as Sujin tends to his wounds, the stinging alcohol biting into his skin. Sujin remains calm, her steady hands working despite the suffocating tension of their isolated situation. He checks his watch, his mind racing. Time is slipping away in this frozen, silent tomb. The fire crackles, but they are running out of fuel. Their survival window is closing fast. Sujin stares blankly, the lack of electricity weighing heavily on her exhausted mind. Sun Tihun points to the black residue, questioning the bizarre phenomenon of evaporating blood. Sujin shrugs off the mystery, comparing the strange evaporation to simple dry ice. Tihun notes the corpses melting away, a terrifying detail never documented in any report. He stares into the darkness, haunted by the realization that their reality is unraveling. Sujin's blue eyes lock onto him, her gaze intense as the silence stretches thin. Tihun suggests burning waste oil for warmth, desperate to escape the biting Antarctic cold. Sujin recoils, warning that the fumes in this enclosed space would surely suffocate them. They watch the thick smoke rise, realizing even their small fire is a hazard. Tihun coughs, cursing the cowards who stole the batteries and left them to die. Sujin snaps at Sun Tihun, her voice sharp with panic. Does he have a fever? He ignores her, his mind fixated on the missing battery. It was right there. Sujin stares, completely lost. What is he even talking about in this frozen hell? Electricity. Sun Tihun's eyes light up with a manic, desperate hope. We can get it back. He presses against the glass, questioning if these things feel the cold like us. He's spiraling, his face twitching. This entire situation is driving him to the brink of madness. He spots the snowmobile buried in the snow. Wait, there's a battery inside that thing. Sujin warns him, whispering that the noise from the door is drawing them all here. She pleads with him, insisting the proximity of the zombies makes this plan far too dangerous. Sun Taehoon grins, his expression chilling. Actually having them close is exactly what he needs. Taehoon and Sujin prepare their arsenal, ready to turn the tide against the encroaching nightmare. He's skeptical. What if fire is just another useless tool in this frozen, hellish landscape? Sujin weighs the risks of suffocation against the desperate need to survive the biting cold. They watch the chaos unfold below, the stairwell swarming with entities in a terrifying display. He hurls the Molotov cocktail, watching the flames erupt into a brilliant, deadly golden inferno. The fire connects and the entities shriek, their twisted forms engulfed in the searing heat. They don't even retreat, the flames just highlight their mindless, predatory aggression in the dark. Nice, Taehoon cheers, seeing his plan finally pay off as the monsters burn and recoil. He watches with a cold, calculating gaze. As expected, they are trapped by their own hunger. The entities charge through the fire, completely indifferent to the pain of their burning flesh. Because they're corpses, walking, Sun Taehoon's realization hits Sujin like a physical blow. Sujin's eyes widen in sheer panic. If the fire fails, what is their plan B? Taehoon doesn't answer, he just grabs another bottle, his eyes locked on the target. He hurls the bottle. It shatters against the wall, bathing the stairwell in blinding flames. The fire erupts, consuming the entities as they mindlessly rush into the searing, golden inferno. Taehoon watches closely, confirming his theory. The waste oil smell masks their own scent perfectly. The monsters shriek, their skin bubbling and melting away as the fire disrupts their senses. He checks the window, his expression hardening. The path to the snowmobile is finally clear. "We can do this," he mutters, watching the burning carcasses collapse in the snow. He hands Sujin a final weapon, his voice cold. "You stay here, I'm going out." Sujin presses him, demanding to know his speed. Survival depends on every single second. Taehoon reaches out, steadying her with a firm, cold hand. He has a plan. He gives the order, support him from above and don't hesitate to take a kill. But the reality hits hard. If the entities swarm the station, they are completely screwed. He checks the layout, confirming the snowmobile's location near the living quarters with Sujin. Sujin nods, gripping her long spear tightly, ready to hold the line while he moves. Taehoon flashes a predatory grin, his eyes burning with a dark, dangerous resolve to survive. He sprints onto the stairs, shouting for her to keep that door locked tight. "I trust you," he yells, leaping into the blizzard, leaving the safety of the base. He hits the snow, eyes locked on the target. The hunt for the battery begins now. Sun Taehoon hits the snow, sprinting hard through the blinding Antarctic blizzard. Sujin watches from the window, her grip tightening on her weapon in the freezing cold. She scans the dark, silent interior, her eyes landing on a fallen, frozen figure. Wait, is that the Chinese geologist? She recognizes him from before the chaos erupted. He was a soldier, too. Why are Chinese personnel dying in this specific sector? Sujin realizes the sheer scale of the tragedy. So many researchers were sent here. The international presence is massive, with teams from South Korea, China, and Peru everywhere. She shouts into the wind, her voice cracking, "Sunbi, hurry up, it's not safe." She leans further out, her eyes wide with sudden, sharp alarm at a movement. "Sunbi, what are you doing?" she screams, her face twisted in pure, unadulterated terror. Sun Taehoon roars, tearing through the blizzard on a snowmobile metal pipe raised high. He's completely lost it, laughing maniacally as he charges straight into the burning chaos. The snowmobile cuts through the fire, Taehoon's eyes wild behind those orange goggles. He screams about cavalry superiority, his expression twisted into a terrifying, unhinged grin. Sujin watches from the window in horror, shouting that the battery model won't even work. Taehoon ignores her, his reflection in his goggles showing the burning, infected nightmare ahead. It's do or die, he's betting everything on this reckless, high-speed charge through the flames. He revs the engine, weapon ready, eyes locked on the path to their salvation. He's convinced he can win, his mind fueled by adrenaline and the sheer power of speed. He charges at the infected, desperate to escape this hellish, zombie-infested Antarctic nightmare. Sun Taehoon crashes the snowmobile, his desperate gamble ending in a violent, jarring collision. Wait, it dodged. The entity's reflexes are inhuman, leaving Taehoon stunned in the snow. The infected creature lunges with terrifying speed, its red eyes burning with pure predatory malice. Taehoon is sent flying through the air as the impact shatters his momentum completely. He hits the ground hard, the snowmobile spinning away as the entities swarm the area. He scrambles across the ice, gasping for air while trying to regain his lost footing. Sujin screams his name from the window, her voice filled with raw, unadulterated, frozen terror. He's cornered, the entities closing in as the firelight casts long, nightmarish shadows around him. Tihun grins, his eyes glowing red, a chilling thought should they speak in their own language. The monster looms over him, arms raised to strike, as the final brutal confrontation begins. Sun Tihun stares in horror, that face, those glowing eyes. Is this another special one? No time to think, he swings his weapon, desperate to shatter the creature's skull. The entity dodges with impossible speed, leaving Tihun swinging at empty, freezing air. A brutal collision, Tihun is sent flying, his body slamming into the unforgiving ice. He screams in pure rage, unleashing a flurry of blows against the relentless, burning monster. The chaos intensifies, cries of "die" echoing through the blizzard as they trade lethal strikes. He's locked in a deadly dance, eyes wide, realizing the threat is far more intelligent. A clawed hand reaches down, he barely dodges, his spanner slipping from his numb, shaking grip. He crashes down hard, the impact rattling his bones as he gasps for air. The monster mocks him, taunting his arrogance. Does he really think he's invincible in this hell? Sun Tihun is pinned, his grip on the entity failing as they collapse together. The creature's glowing red eyes burn with pure, unadulterated malice in the freezing snow. It lunges for his throat, its jaws snapping, he's barely holding it back with his arms. Tihun snaps, "Judo, you bastard," as he desperately attempts a counterthrow to break the hold. They tumble across the ice, a blur of motion and fire, neither willing to yield ground. He swings the heavy wrench, but the entity is a nightmare of speed and lethal intent. The monster looms, black corruption dripping from its maw, ready to finish the fight for good. He stumbles back, reeling from the sheer intensity of the assault, his lungs burning for air. "Damn it, if only I had a proper weapon," he screams, his voice lost in the wind. A sudden cry of Sunbi echoes, he freezes, his eyes wide as the distraction leaves him vulnerable. Sujin screams into the howling wind, desperately searching for Tihun in the blinding white storm. Tihun's eyes widen behind his goggles. He hears her, but he's already deep in the fray. 3 infected remain, and even at 2-on-3, the freezing blizzard makes the odds look impossible. A hand reaches out through the gore. If they aren't careful, death is the only outcome. Tihun lunges forward, his face a mask of pure adrenaline-fueled intensity amidst the burning carnage. He spots the lumber shed, a potential tactical position to turn this nightmare around right now. He strikes with lethal precision, drawing the entity's focus entirely onto himself to protect Sujin. He bellows at Sujin to stay back, his voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. He sprints, his movements blurring as he baits the monsters away from their only safe path. Sujin looks up, her eyes filled with raw, desperate concern as she watches him risk everything. Sujin braces against the howling gale, her rope taut as she tracks the distant, encroaching shadows. Her breath hitches, the blizzard is clearing, and the nightmare is closing in faster than ever.